All right. Well, welcome to Monday's show. Next week's life begins today. So I'm very, very honored and thrilled. And if you haven't met him, this is Anthony DelGrosso. He's a VP of sales. It is VP of sales, right?
I'm actually the RVP of Milner South. It's called now, so I do more than sales.
Okay. So my apologies.
No problem.
RVP has a big job down at Milner. He's headquartered in Florida. So, Anthony, say hello to everybody.
Hey everyone, super excited to be here, Mike. Thanks so much for the opportunity to come on the podcast. Looking forward to a great session here.
Yeah, thank you. And obviously, they're still wearing suits down in Florida, so that's very impressive. I like that.
You gotta show up in uniform, my man. Wearing suits everywhere. It's a mindset. It's a mindset.
Absolutely. And I've been following you for a few years now. So for the audience, sometimes I'm sure you can all appreciate you connect with people, and sometimes you don't know why or how, but the destiny leads you to a place. And I connected with Anthony. I've enjoyed the LinkedIn, exchanges and following you and the Executive Connection Summit. So, Anthony, tell us a little bit about your career with Milner. And actually, let's back up. Tell us a little bit about your career. Where did it begin? And then we'll talk a little bit about Milner.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. So I got into business back in '05. It's scary to even say that. I like to think that I'm still the young guy in the game, but unfortunately, 18 years in the business, you're still not that guy anymore. But I started in '05 working in Midtown Manhattan for one of the global imaging companies, Car Business Systems. Had a great tenure there. Started out as an account executive and worked my way up to VP of sales. And again, 13 years there, a long time. Met some great people. Worked for some awesome leaders. Learned a ton and had a really great experience there. And after that, I went over to Flowtech, Flex Technology Group company, and spent 3 years there working in the Northeast marketplace, running a few of the major marketplaces out there in the Northeast, really focused on managed print and enterprise business. And then just about 3 years ago, I made the move down to Florida. And, I've been running the Milner South for, again, just about 3 years. So, great run with the business. I've had the ability to learn a lot of different types of accounts, a lot of different approaches, a lot of different product lines, and that's really what took me here. So super excited to be here, and that's a little bit about the professional side. I'd be remiss to say if I didn't talk a little bit about personal side. So I'm married, and I got two kids, two boys. And Mike, you're going to love this. It's really creative. Their names are Anthony and Angelo. So I really veered off far of the trail there. It's pretty much exactly what everybody expected. But two great boys, and my wife Leah, super supportive, and can't thank her enough for really supporting me through all the craziness of our industry and working around the clock type deal. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, I love the Anthony and Angelo thing. That's perfect. Obviously, with a Stramaglio and a Del Grosso, I think we have a lot in common. At least
100%.
a lot of shared stories, I'm sure. So let's talk a little bit, if we can, about your career. So one of the things that I know that I'm focused on with the Executive Connection Summit or with the podcast, I'm always trying to find the up and comers, the stable, historical, experienced, successful people, and this generational change, literally generational change, and technology generational change. So I keep watching all of the AI stuff, and I have a daughter, who's in the business. I consider her a next gen leader. How when you go to work and you're working with a kaleidoscope of people, right?
Sure.
Ages, genders, all kinds of things. So as a young person in our business, the first question is, what do you see in your future as somebody who has, frankly, a responsibility to help grow this business beyond this generation? So what do you see that you really, really like? And what do you see that you think you need to change?
Well, it's a great question, Mike. And I think, it's traditionally, as your earlier comment, this is a business that people have been in a long time, and they've done things a certain way. And that's just, with being a next gen leader, it's just not how it's going to be going forward. Right. I think, you know, I have to absolutely embrace technology and embrace change and really help bring along some of the more senior folks that have been doing it a long time. One of the things that we'll talk about a little bit later is we have a super high tenure here at Milner, and it's teaching old dogs new tricks, it's leveraging technology, and it's teaching, most importantly, the new folks coming in that yes, technology is great, but at the end of the day, there's no substitute for hard work. So, I think leveraging technology makes your job a lot easier, but you still need to put the time in every single day, day in and day out. So, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's really how I see the technology affecting the workplace and kind of blending the two old guard, new guard type thought process.
Well, that's a great answer, and you kind of pushed me to another question along those lines. Obviously, I'm old guard, and you seem to be of the tenure where you're doing a lot of work with young people, a lot of work with the old guard. What do you worry about as far as the old guard leaving the business? Worry is probably a bad word. What do you think about and wonder about with the old guard leaving the business that might get lost? That you have to be very careful of not losing.
Yeah, so it's I think what you were looking for was, hey, what keeps you up at night, right? So,
Yeah,
when you sit there and look, you got the good thing again, as at Milner and everywhere else, really in the industry, is folks have been here a long time. They've done a great job with the customers. They've done a great job growing the business. But what happens when they leave, right? So for me, what keeps me up is how do I backfill that, right? How do I bring in new talent and get them to see that this is a really great industry? It's an industry where you can grow, evolve, sell different stuff, really, really be a true consultant in an organization, and earn a great living, right? For the folks that have been in the business, people have done really, really well, and it's afforded me the same thing, right? Where I've been able to earn a really good living, and people need to see that, and people need to get excited about it. Leaders have to be excited about it, and we got to change that stigma. Like, hey, this is an old person's business, and that this is really a great opportunity to come in and make a mark on an organization, right? You come in as a new person, you come in, you work hard, and then you could really, really do a great job of creating a career for yourself. And to me, like, that's the biggest thing is hiring new talent, developing them, getting to see that this is an exciting time to be in an industry that is exciting as you want it to be, right? Everybody, years ago it was like, hey, I want to do med device sales, and then that's turned, and then, hey, I want to do software, right? Well, guess what? Like at companies like Milner and many of the other ones, you could do all of that stuff. You could sell software, you could sell cyber, you could do all these things, and that'll really backfill those folks that are going to be leaving. But we got to get more excited about it. And that's, if you were to say, hey, like, what is the thing that we need to do in our industry is we've got to be more excited about the job. And it starts with the leader, right? Speed of the leader, speed of the pack. And that's really what's going to change that. And I'm not sure if that answers your question, Mike, but those are one of those things that I'm super passionate about is there's so much opportunity, and we need to do a better job of marketing it out to some of the newer folks that there is a huge opportunity for us to be better and to really bring in some top quality people and grow the business and keep it going.
man, I love the sound of that, and you're 100% right. Excitement, that comes from the top. So when and clearly you have it. You could it's a genuine excitement. You can feel it right across the camera. So take it a little bit further. So you have a generation of people that are leaving, and I think you would agree. I hope you would agree that one of the biggest things besides hard work and the things that we all come to appreciate. I think one of the things that the older generation really kind of focused on was relationships. The relationships with the employees, the relationships with the clients. Um, how do you feel? How do you feel about that? And how do you feel or think the younger people coming into the business can they appreciate the importance of that, or am I off track?
No, I think I think it's a cultural thing, right? I think that number one, people buy from people. It doesn't matter whether you're the biggest company out there or the smallest company out there. Doesn't really, in a lot of cases, it doesn't matter the name that's on the door of the machine or the software. It's they're buying from you, right? They're buying from you the confidence that you exude when you're meeting with them, and the follow up after the sale, right? I think that relationship thing. Number one, it's got to be genuine because people could see right through it, and I see so many times leaders they look past that, and people got to feel that you genuinely care about them. If you create a culture where people know you care, you're going to get 200% out of them, as opposed to, hey, at 5 o'clock, if you're standing in front of the door, you're going to get knocked over. And I feel like in some pockets, that's a lost art in our business, right? People got to feel the love. They got to feel that you're going to fight alongside them, whether it's with a sale, whether it's a technician who's having a challenge, whether it's a sales rep trying to cut service to put money in profit. Like everybody in your organization has to feel that you have their back. And that's one of the things that we talk about a lot here. And that's how you really gain the respect. People are going to ask three questions, right? Can they trust you? Number one. Number two, do you know what you're doing? And number three, do you have that person's back when things go bad? And if you do those things and you are that person and you're genuine about it, then you're gonna do a really good job of growing your organization and really creating that followership and making the people feel great about it and building that relationship. And then honestly, I feel all those new folks come in, if they genuinely feel that, then yes, they'll get it 100%. But it's again, like everything else, it starts at the top, and it's got to be a cultural message that's carried by every single person at the organization, from the guy that pushes the broom in the warehouse to the CFO on forward.
So and I love what you just shared. If you take that a little bit further, you're clearly excited about the industry. What is it that you would share with next gen leaders or people coming into the business? Why? Why are you excited?
Well, I mean, listen, if you know, I'm a younger guy, like I'm not that young, cool guy anymore. But it's an opportunity to take a business that people have done a great job of growing it and take it to the next level, right? We own it. We embrace it. It's like, hey, how do we take what's already established and blow it into the stratosphere and make it this incredible thing? So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the opportunities that it presents. I'm excited about the challenge every single day. That's different. There's so much new technology, and if you're willing to evolve and grow and constantly be a student of the game, the opportunities are endless. So, I mean, that's really what I'm excited about, and that's one of the many reasons why I came down to Milner's, because that's how we're set up, right? It's constant evolution. It's moving forward. It's progressing, to really have the opportunity to do what you need to do for the customer and ultimately the industry.
So when you look at hiring younger people, if I can say it that way, forgive
Yeah,
me,
sure.
but a younger generation of people who you want to pull into this industry, are you finding them to be willing participants and excited about the opportunity, or are they more, reluctant? I always hear from people, it's so hard to find good people. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so that's a great question, right? And I talk to other folks in the industry, and getting the hardest part that we've seen. Fortunately, Milner hasn't had to really recruit. We have a high tenure of folks here, but as we do that, it's getting that person in the door, and that's the hardest part. Once they get in the door, when they meet with our leadership team, when they meet with us, they're going to be as excited about the role as you are or the hiring manager is when they explain it to the person, right? Like they'll hear from the recruiter, or they'll hear from our internal team, or however they got in touch with us, like, hey, this is a great company, it's been in business for 37 years and there's so many good things. But at the end of the day, it's once they get in the door, they need to feel the energy and feel the leader's passion for the business and what they're doing. If they don't feel that, that's the first and last time you're going to meet those folks. And look, we've seen it on both sides here. It's, some people are excited about it and others just aren't. And we've had people come out and say, hey, like, look, I really wasn't that excited about taking this interview, but what I could tell you is after meeting with so and so, like, I feel really good about it and I want to know more. And I'm really interested in taking the next step. We've heard it more than once, but that's the hardest thing, is getting the people in the door and having the conversation. And then it's incumbent upon us to really have that better conversation, and they got to feel it again. It's got to be a genuine thing.
So, do you think, a little more of a philosophical question, do you think leaders are born or made?
You know, I think they're developed, right? So I'm going to come right down the middle on you there. You know, I think some people inherently have the ability to do it, right? And I think that it takes the right people around them, or the right, I would say, mistakes for them to see really how to lead, right? I think it takes some folks in their corner to make them feel good about it and let them know when they're doing the right thing and not, and I think some people that, and it go both ways. Some people have all the ability in the world and they just can't put it together. So I don't know. I mean, it's tough. What I can tell you in a quick story, when I got to car, all I wanted to be like, my final interview, I told the president at the time, Mitch Cohen, I was like, hey, it's like, hey, what do you want to do here? I was like, don't get comfortable. I want to sit in your chair. And that was it. Like from day one, I wanted to be the president of the company. Like that's all I thought about. And first full year out, had a great selling year, salesman of the year. Yeah, it's great. I get promoted to manager, and I fell within 6 months. Like it was awful. It was the
Mm.
worst experience in the world. But what I could tell you is, from a stepping stone thing, it was the best thing that could have happened to me, right? You learn so many things, like, hey, people don't all work at the same pace you do. Not everybody is going to react to managing by yelling or by demanding, right? It's a craft, right? And if that didn't happen to me, I don't know if I'd be the leader I am today. I certainly wouldn't still be in the business, because I would have been fired out of the business, or at least out of car. But I think it's things like that that really check people's egos and say, hey, like, if you want to lead, like, you got to lead without the title, and that's the only way it's going to take you to that next level.
So, I happen to be pretty familiar with some of the people I believe that you probably encountered at Carr. I don't know how long, but certainly Paul Schulman or Dan
Yeah.
Cooper, some of these other folks, Mitch Cohn, I happen to be a huge fan of, as well as Dan and the others. Um, and I'm not going to ask you anything that you might be uncomfortable with, but what do you think that combination of personalities and leaders taught you? What's your greatest asset? What's your greatest takeaway from working with some of these great people?
Yeah, so I think you got three totally different personalities, right? And I don't know if you picked those people by chance or not. Mitch was super charismatic, and people would follow that guy into they'd walk off a bridge behind him, right? And that was always a thing I admired, is he had the followership of everyone in there, everyone in the place at the time. And that's I was one of those guys. I was like, man, this guy really has it. And Dan, to me, my limited exposure at the time, he was always a numbers guy, very matter of fact, like, hey, here's the offense, here's how you're going to run it. And it was just results, and, results at a high level. And Paul, I met Paul a bunch of times. When I had gotten to Carr, he had just moved up into global and promoted Mitch as the president of Carr. And, he was great, man. Anytime you had a conversation, he made you feel like $1 million. And, he also got his point across. So I think, looking at that, and again, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of different leaders over my time, especially at Carr, is you learn what works for some people, and you take a little bit of everybody. And even for the folks that didn't maybe do as great of a job as they could have, you learn what the mistakes were, and not to make them, right? So, when you say, hey, what's the biggest strength? It's, adaptability, and really learning from all the people you have the opportunity to encounter with throughout your career. I mean, those three great leaders, and they've built really good businesses. And like, I'm not going to be either any of those directly, but I for sure will take a piece of what I've learned from each of them and make that my own.
So, if you don't want to answer this question, I won't feel bad if you say, no, I don't want to answer the
All
question.
right, go ahead, go ahead.
So I'm going to lay it out there. If I ask your wife, what does she have the greatest appreciation for you? What does she find most appealing or respect, have for you? What would she say?
That's a tough question. I would say, it's hard work and providing for the family. Like, She knows how hard I work to make sure that everybody's taken care of, and really uh, take the worry off for everybody else. Like, so I guess the biggest thing was she sees how hard I work and how much I care.
That's a good answer. So you're obviously a family guy.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple your sons to me, and so what do you do? What on a personal side? What fulfills you? What gives you that gratification? You got a family. What kind of hobbies do you have with the family or for yourself? What
Yeah.
does what do you like?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I've always been a super active guy. Played baseball at a very high level. So, I personally stay active. I'm a big gym guy. That to me is an absolute necessity. As far as the family goes, I mean, when I'm not at work or whatever for work, I just like to spend time with them. Right. I want my kids to recognize, hey, you have to work hard to afford the things that afford and give you the ability to things that you want to do. And then I also want to be dad, right? You want to talk about a humbling experience. You're a person at work, right? And people see you as one thing. When I come home, my kids see me as dad, right? So, like I say whatever, and I'm like a joke to them. It's like a funny thing. Whereas, you're at work and everybody's all serious, and of course, I'm not exactly the most approachable person sometimes with that whole Italian thing going on, but at home, I'm just dad, man. So I enjoy doing that, and just being around, hanging out, and spending time with them when I'm not working or anything like that.
So are you second generation Italian American?
I believe actually no. Yes, I am second generation over here. My grandma, I think it makes me second generation. My grandmother came over from Italy through Ellis Island in New York.
Yeah, just like my family came through Ellis Island. So you have a rich Italian heritage, and they ended up and stayed in New York, and you grew up in New York.
Yeah, so I was born in Bronx, New York, and I actually grew up in Jersey. So
Ah,
my parents, yeah. So my parents, when they had me, they're like, okay, we're gonna get this guy away from all the madness, and we'll raise him in Jersey. Only for me to turn around and go back and work in New York. So it kind of worked, but it also kind of went back. So yeah,
well, we share a lot of, I think, of that rich heritage. I was just in Italy, for 3 weeks about a month ago, and it all comes back. Everything comes back every time I go. So
yeah.
when you look at your family background, and clearly there are some things you and I could probably share over a beer many times about what they
Yeah.
think, how they think. One of the biggest things in my family growing up was you never ever do anything to embarrass your family name.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and is that similar for you?
Listen, you don't do anything to disgrace the name. Your word is your bond, and it doesn't matter whether you're good or bad at something. You need to work as hard as you possibly can to do it. That was something that is near and dear to my heart. That's what was instilled to me at a young age. One of the biggest things was my both my parents worked, and my dad went to work sick. Didn't matter, snow, terrible weather, no weather. It didn't matter. You just got it done. There was no reason to fall back, and it's where you get your work ethic from, I believe. And they instilled me in that at an early age.
Well, you and I share that, and it's been part of my mantra forever, and hopefully the rest of my life, and for my kids. So when you look at when you look at the industry, and again switch gears a little bit, Anthony,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
what's the advice or counsel you would give to this shared generation that you belong to or younger? What really do you want to impress them with? Say, guys, ladies, you need to really be looking at this.
No, I think that's a tough question, right? I think you always have to be open. That to me is the number one thing. You have to be open. You have to be interested. You have to be always looking for what's that next thing. Like, what is going to be the next thing? Do you understand it? How does it apply to your customers? Like, it's things like that constant evolution of anyone is really what's going to make them successful. And above all else, and I keep going back to it, and like it's the easiest possible thing is there's no replacement or excuse for hard work. Like if you come in and you work and you're forward thinking and you're always asking what's next and how can I help and how can I do something like this different? How can I be different from everyone else? That to me is probably the biggest piece of advice I can give someone is you just got to be consistent and you always got to be thinking what's next. And that's the best piece of advice I can give someone.
So, how do you, forgetting the day to day learning, is there anything that Anthony DelGrosso actually spends time on and says, hey, you know what, I need to read a book a week? Or what is there anything in the self help area that you would recommend for other people?
Yeah, so I think look, you definitely need to be open minded when you're reading different things. I'm a book a month guy. I didn't think of myself as anybody who reads until I actually started to add up what I actually read in a week or a day or a month. I think it's okay to learn different businesses. For me, we interact with so many different organizations. You've got to be ahead of information. You got to be ahead of what trends are in the marketplace. Like you can see behind me, I got Bloomberg on the TV here. And as much as I want to be a day trader and a big time banker, that's not what I'm doing. But I'm constantly getting new information and new data, so it makes me better on calls and a better executive, right? Because you know what's going on, you understand what some of the trends are, and it makes you better in conversation with your clients. And overall, it just gives you a better business acumen. So, I think it's things like that. It's, you got to find something that you like when you're reading for, to me, it's leadership, how to do things different. It's generational trends. That's super, super important to understand the folks that are working for you now and that are going to be working for you as they leave school and come into the workplace. And, the whole work from home hybrid situation is also something that I'm super dialed in on and just constantly learning different ways to do things.
So, as we're basically winding down now, we've got a good half hour, great conversation,
Yeah.
and frankly, I appreciate the honor to have you on the show again.
I
Uh,
appreciate the invite.
really mean it. Um, when you're going, if I remember right, you said you've been with Milner for about 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that would put you right bumping up against or in the COVID beginning, right?
Yeah.
So you took a new job with Milner and COVID hit.
No, no, no. So I was in the thick of COVID, right? So it was halfway through COVID, and I made the decision to come down to Milner, and COVID didn't hit the same as it hit in the Northeast down here, but it was still a challenge, right? We still were strained in the marketplaces down here. Um, you know, Completing our past year, we're back to pre-COVID levels 100%. We just never took our foot off the throttle down here. We reinvented ourselves at some market. We sell more than just copiers and printers, and that's something that gave us a really good competitive advantage down here and throughout the entire Southeast, really. And yeah, but no, I came down here right in the middle of COVID.
You have my admiration and respect. That's a tough time to make a major decision like that, and good for you. And obviously, you just said that the business is back to pre-COVID levels, so double good and great job.
Thanks. Yeah, we have the best team here at Milner. What I could tell you is, when Tom was recruiting me down here, I came here on a gut feeling, just like he brought me in on a gut feeling. Like everybody knows everybody, and as much as we like to think this is a big industry, it's super small and super tight knit, right? So, we had a really good feeling. He had a great team in place down here. He had done an incredible job building the Florida marketplace, and that leadership is really what catapulted him into running all of Milner now. And we're just a go out and get it done team. We have a great leadership team here that we roll up our sleeves and get it done. Big lead from the front mentality, and everybody pitches in, and everybody has a voice here at Milner. From again, the guy that pushes the broom in the warehouse to all the way up to my managers, to the district leads, to the reps, admin folks. Everybody goes after it, and we're all rowing in the same direction. And that's really what separates us from a lot of other places, and that's why we got back on track so quick after COVID, and we continue to grow.
Well, my hat's off to you and to Dusty and Tom and the whole management crew and employee crew there. It's a phenomenal company. I mean, the roots are very clear. I mean, it goes all the way back to Lanier to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm really proud and honored to have the opportunity to call some of those folks pretty good friends, and hopefully now I can call you a good friend going forward.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Couple quick last questions.
Okay, let's go.
Sinatra.
All right, so listen, I could be like all the other folks on the podcast, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I like New York, New York," or "My Way," or any of those. I'm gonna flip it a little bit. I'm going Tony Bennett, "Rags to Riches." That's where I'm going.
I am a huge fan of Tony Bennett's too, and that is truly one of my favorite songs. So Shadow of Your Smile is a good one too, but good for
Yeah.
you.
All right.
And are you a fan of Lady Gaga and the Tony Bennett duets?
Listen, I don't think they're bad. I think they're pretty good. It's super impressive how he's still up until the end, still sang pretty good, man. So yeah.
Yeah, he kept the pipes forever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's usually goes early, but he was able to keep it going.
So the last and final question, you know, when you look at your, call it the next 5 years, right? And you have aspirations for you and your family. Um, I liked what you said. Hey, don't get comfortable in that seat. But what does Tony DelGrosso? What are you looking for in the next 5 years for your career?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's just to keep learning and growing the business. Here at Milner, they've given me a lot of really great opportunities in the short time that I've been here. We couldn't ask for a better ownership group here. The Milners do a great job, and not only are part of the business. Kaysen runs the Atlanta marketplace, but Dusty empowers us to do what we need to do to grow the business. So, for me, I just want to continue to grow the operation throughout Florida and throughout the rest of the Southeast, and we'll be up in the Northeast soon. So, for me, just to keep growing and again, expand the Milner brand and carry the flag forward.
Well, it's been an honor to visit with you and everyone that's listening in the audience. Hopefully, you've come to learn a little bit more about Anthony. You certainly learned a little bit more about Milner. The insight about the industry is very much appreciated, Anthony. And hopefully, we'll see you at ECS 24 in January.
Absolutely, Mike. All right, Mike. Thanks so much. Appreciate the opportunity to come on the podcast today. Great catching up, and we should absolutely have that drink and compare war stories. I'm sure there's so many similarities.
Absolutely. I'll look forward to it. And thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun, Anthony.
All right, Mike. Thank you. Appreciate it.